It was a slight delay. I have to tell you that this is probably going to be a message that, to me, has been the most profound I have done in the last 16 and a half years at the Divine Fellowship. I hope it has the same energy for you. What I want to share with you came from last second service, which was last Sunday evening. In that last second service, we talked about the metaphysical symbolism that is held in the birth of Christ, in that story, in that expression of those moments. And we talked about the meaning of the shepherds and the meaning of the angels and how they apply in your life today. And we talked about the symbolism of the Christ child. So whether you're Christian or not, the symbolism is about your spiritual innocence. That's what we're striving for. Life brings us challenges and difficulties that rob us of that spiritual innocence. We make choices that create learning processes for us, but sometimes those cause us pain and they cause others pain. And we miss the mark of being perfected in love. And missing the mark is what is referred to as that sin, that not being what we really wanted to be, which is holy and right all the time. So the symbolism of the Christ child is reclaiming that spiritual innocence and the power that comes with it. There's power in that spiritual innocence. And the manger has the energetic structure, in my mind anyway, is like this. It has the two pieces of wood like this, and then the Christ child is cradled in that. So it's a 2-foot or 2-pronged expression or experience of doing your best, doing what is in your heart to do, living in integrity, and the other part, which is forgiveness, because we're human and we're not going to be perfect, and we're going to make mistakes, and the ego jumps up and says, no, I want it my way. And sometimes we hurt other people's feelings, sometimes we hurt ourselves. So if we do the best we can and we have forgiveness, that cradles and supports this innocence, this spiritual innocence that we're all craving for, that reconnecting us with that divine source that when we get all cluttered up with stuff, we don't feel. We don't feel that. So we want that. That's what we cherish and we treasure. We also talked about the symbolism of the star and that sort of thing. And the very last little bit of that message was about Mary treasured these things in her heart. And I asked those that were present, there were only 8 of us, it was so sacred and so beautiful. I asked the 8 of us to treasure these things in our heart. So as I was treasuring these things in my heart as well, on Monday, I had an amazing epiphany. And that epiphany I want to share with you, and I want to share with you processes that I hopefully will be able to help you have your own epiphany. So here's what happened for me. As I was looking at the star, considering the star, pondering that in my heart, I realized it represented hope, and a hope to guide me in my life. That star guided the wise men to the Christ child. Wisdom, brought wisdom into that spiritual innocence. So if I want that spiritual innocence and I want the wisdom, then what is the star that guides me? What is the hope that guides me? And as I was pondering that, I became aware of a very deep old fear that had been resident in my heart. Because I took this and was holding it in my heart space, which is different than holding it in your head. Holding it in your head, we analyze and that sort of thing. Holding it in your heart space is pondering. And in that pondering, it's about, I wonder what this is about. And it opens our awareness and opens our consciousness to a place where we can experience things beyond what we know. So as I was pondering this in my heart, this fear came up. Old fear. Now, I've been doing psychic stuff for a long time. haven't really calculated recently, so my numbers are probably off. But I've been doing psychic stuff for at least 25 years as a paid professional. The church is 16 and a half years old, 16 years old. So this fear has been resident through all of that. And the fear is that people would think that I'm doing what I do for glory, money, or power, which is not true. And I get really defensive about that. And I really want people to understand that that's not what I'm really about. So here's the fear. Now in that fear, I have tried to use positive thought to overcome that. And the positive thought is, well, people will, I'll just keep doing what I do and it'll become evident, and I talk to people about it, and you know, if I say the right things, then people will get it. And there's nothing wrong with positive thought. Positive thought has kept that fear at bay and has brought me to the front of the room. Because there's times that I didn't want to because I was afraid. You know, that fear was big. It's big. So positive thought was keeping it at bay, but it wasn't enough. So I looked at the hope. I looked at the star. And what the star communicated to me was this. Something I couldn't have gotten on my own. And what the star communicated to me was this. When you walk a spiritual path alongside others who walk a spiritual path, they'll get you. And that fear was gone. I have looked at that fear again. I've even spoken those words to myself. There is no energetic attachment to that. And in the moment I heard those words, I saw your face. I swear to God, I saw your face. It was awesome. It was so beautiful. So thank you for getting me. Thank you for getting me. I appreciate that. So I've asked people to share with me some of their fears, so hopefully I could have a little time to prepare and be able to help find what that star of hope can offer for you. The first one that came through was, let me see, make sure I'm telling you everything I need to tell you. Yep, I got that. Okay, so the first one that came through was smoking. How many people, you don't have to raise your hand. I know people are afraid they can't stop smoking because it's really, really hard. It's very difficult. I don't know. I smoked for like 6 weeks, and then I thought, oh, I got to quit this. I'm just an addictive personality, and I don't dare carry this one. And it took me a long time to quit, even after just 6 weeks. So I totally understand that this is a really hard process. So I took the smoking, which is, I'm afraid I can't stop smoking, that's the fear. And I looked at the power of positive thought, because we have power of positive thought. And the positive thought is just stop. Don't do it. Replace it with a better thing. Okay? So I thought, well, okay, what else could there be? So I put it in my heart space, and I literally put this in my heart space, and I held that and pondered that for a bit. And here's what came up. Here's what came up that I could never have gotten on my own. What came up was that smoking is giving yourself a breather. What do you do when we smoke? We breathe it in. The nicotine has the ability to calm us down when we're up, when we're too high and frazzled. It has the ability to bring us up when we're too low. So it's about finding that stability, finding that balance, and breathing. And breathing, giving ourselves a breather. So if January coming up, a lot of people try to stop smoking in January. If that's a process you're going to bring to yourself, then this spiritual awareness can really, really help you. And here's what the star said. I'm so excited to share this. I guide you into giving yourself a breather where you find peace, grounding, balance, and joy, followed by acceptance, adaptability, and being accepted. Isn't that beautiful? You don't have to remember the words. Remember the feeling. Remember the feeling. And the feeling is taking a deep breath in, giving yourself a breather. breather from your own judgments, breather from someone else's judgments. Isn't that beautiful? Let that hope guide you. Let that star of hope guide you into reclaiming your own spiritual innocence about that. How does that feel? Does that feel good? It was the first that came through, but it was the third one I wrote down. Okay, the first one that I wrote down was somebody said that they were afraid of financial difficulty and that they might end up being a bag lady. Let go. I'll be right back. Sorry. Allergies. So, I put that in my heart space. So, because here's the deal. I need a table. Oh well. We'll just deal with it. So here's the fear. Fear of becoming a bag lady. Fear of becoming a financial ruin. And the modern thought, or the positive thought that goes with that, is work harder. So when I put them into my heart space, here's what came up. The issue about being a bag lady or being financially in ruin wasn't about the finances at all. It was about being mentally diminished to the point you don't make good decisions for yourself. And here's the hope that came through. Some of these are so profound that I may cry, so I apologize in advance. Wisdom guards your path. I shall never avert my eyes from you. I grant you wisdom that extends beyond your working knowledge. Together, we choose wisely. Isn't that beautiful? Takes all the fear out of it, doesn't it? How beautiful is that? Then somebody was a high diver, and now they're afraid of heights. And they're also afraid of frogs and toads. And I thought, okay, Lord, what's up with this one? And so I put the fear of heights, and so the fear of heights. And the positive thought on the other side was, do it anyway, get over yourself, make yourself do it, or stay away from heights, stay away from frogs, whatever. So I put that in my heart space, and I just sat with that for a little while. And what came up with that is the frogs and toads are all about leaps of faith. High diving is a leap of faith. And what spiritually was wanting to be communicated to this person was that they had pushed themselves to their limit. They don't need to push anymore. It's not about pushing yourself to the limit. And so here's the hope that came through. I will lead you into the gentle unfoldment of life. I will help you stay grounded as your spirit soars and celebrate your successes with you. Joy uplifts your soul to soaring heights while your life is grounded in worthy activities. When we hold that in our heart space, that fear can dissipate. It's not a matter of holding on to that fear or controlling the fear. It's a matter of allowing that fear to just dissipate. Now, some fear is good. I'm afraid of going down a dark alley in a big city at midnight by myself. That's self-preservation. You know, it's the fears that keep us limited from our own life that we're talking about here. Okay, so I had one that was afraid of abusive relationships. And I put this on Facebook. Put the call out, hey, share with me your fears. So if you're not on our Facebook, Shannon Mobley is the one that manages that. So I think you can make a request to be in that. It's D-I-V-I-N-E, fellowship. And you can make a request. Anyway, the next one that came up from that was a person who was fearful of getting into a new relationship because they'd been in an abusive one. So they're afraid of that pattern of falling into an abusive relationship. And they were afraid of spiders. So I put that in there. So here's the fear. And the positive thought that's been managing that fear. There's nothing wrong with positive thought. And it does manage the fear. So it keeps us going. So the positive thought that manages that fear is be careful. Be careful. And here's what came up as a result of pondering that. Oh, first of all, they showed me that spiders build their webs to entrap the next thing it can consume, the next thing they can suck dry, to sustain itself. Abusers use a web of charm to capture their next energetic feast. So here's the hope that came through with that. I find it interesting that the fear of a particular creature is so symbolically attached to the fear that they have. It's just amazing. Release edgy vigilance and let me lead you into joyful sightseeing adventure where I will heighten your awareness, discernment, and joy. This makes you immune to the charms from an abuser, yet appreciative and open to the valued contact of a tender-hearted person. How cool is that? How cool is that? I apologize, when I'm meditating and then I have to write afterwards, it's like, oh my gosh, what in the heck was that word? Because the motor skills are diminished when I'm out of space. Now, on the other side of that coin is somebody said that they had a fear of becoming an abuser. They were abused and they're fearful of becoming an abuser. And so when I held that in my heart space, so here's you have, I'm afraid of being an abuser, and the common thought is, be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful. Watch your step, watch your step, watch your step. Same edgy vigilance that's there. And what came up with that is that the wounded heart wounds others, so there's that always having to be on guard, always have to be careful, rightfully so. Ted Andrews, who wrote, no, it wasn't Ted Andrews, Dan Millman, who wrote The Peaceful Warrior, also wrote another book called No Ordinary Moments. Within that, he had this wonderful explanation of abuse and how abuse is really when a person tries to control and surmount the wounds that they have incurred, and they hold it in, 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 and then they blow. Sometimes they activate somebody else to be their trigger, and then they can say it's your fault that I blew up. But they have to have a release, whether it's abusing children, abusing a spouse, abusing an animal. They have to have a release or they're going to explode. It's a really sad, horrible cycle. They release that pain of those wounds by inflicting pain because that's the pattern they know. So I believe Christopher referred to it as living in the wound. They're the walking wounded. And there's just oozing, bloody, terrible, horrible, infected wound. So to not become an abuser isn't a matter of just holding back and not acting out. It's a matter of processing out the feelings, moving through feelings, processing them out so they don't get stuck and harbored and packed down. So the path of feelings, there's a really good book called The Pathway by Elaine Mellon, and she talks about moving through your feelings. They did a research project on overweight children, and by utilizing these feelings, helping them move through their feelings, these overweight children automatically lost weight without being on a diet. Because we tend to use food, like some people use smoking, we tend to use food to pack it in, to pack those feelings down. And to keep from exploding, we pack them in as fat. I know of which I speak. So when we're living in the now and we're processing the feelings as they arrive, then we move through that process. The pathway of feelings that she recommends or that she suggests is this: anger, sadness, fear, guilt or shame, and moving into they get to, I get to, and the power of choice and how I perceive my world. So it looks like this. I'm really angry about this because. I'm really sad about this because. I'm really angry about this situation because it makes me feel helpless. Well, I'm really sad about being helpless because then I can't help other people. And I'm afraid about being helpless because what if I'm helpless in my own life, and what if my life has no meaning, blah, blah, blah. We get ourselves crazy. See how it just makes us crazy? But if we move through those and really feel the feelings when we get there, we can move to, I get to be afraid. I get to move through my fear. I get to make new choices in my life. I get to forgive myself. I get to forgive others. And they get to be where they are. And when we get to that state of being, then what are we going to do to nurture ourselves? That's the other part of the process. What do I do to nurture myself? What's one thing I can do right now to support this me? Not the angry, fearful, sad, guilty, shame me, but the clear me. And when we get clear, that's really when the power is. In any of my workshops, you'll find me saying, okay, get clear. Because if we're crudted up with old hurts and old wounds, we can't be effective in the metaphysical spiritual world. So with that said, here's what came through when I held that in my heart for a while. Please let me lead you into the gentle release of sorrows and pain. Difficulties reveal themselves as hidden blessings to you, and the power of freedom is yours. My health will not get better. And there were several that were afraid of falling. So as I put that into my heart space, okay, my health is not going to get better. Okay, I've got to do everything I can to make my health better. Okay, that's logical and good. That's the right thing to do. So when I held that in my heart space, what came up was that it's all about restriction and freedom. Falling down on the job, not being good enough. So I have another one about not good enough, so a person that has this particular one may want to look at that one as well. But when I held this in my heart space, this beautiful poem came through. Or not beautiful poem, beautiful prayer. And I don't know if I can read it without crying, so just bear with me. Here's what the Star of Hope said. I grant you access to the prayer of the tiger. I walk in strength. Bless me with more strength. I listen in the silence. Hear me. I travel far. Guide my steps. I protect others. Carry me. Now when I received that, I thought, oh, surely you don't mean carry me. Surely you mean help me do a better job or whatever. No. They reaffirmed for me 3 times. Carry me. Because when we feel like our health is not enough, and sometimes spiritually, we get to be carried. Isn't that beautiful? It's not so much about she did what she could or this is the best I can do. It's about allowing yourself to be where you are. It was beautiful, just beautiful. The next one was fear of failure, fear of letting other people down, being not good enough, fear of rejection, feeling that my life is meaningless, almost getting to a place where I'm successful, not quite. So the energy of that was do more, work harder, avoid mistakes, play it safe, try harder, keep searching, keep at it. And when I held that in my heart space, here's what came through. Love finds fulfillment in all that you do and all that you are. Divine love fulfills itself in you. That is more than sufficient. That's everything. Allow love to carry your efforts into fulfillment. The next person was fearful of death. And they were also fearful of crossing bridges where there was water running underneath it. And it doesn't take too much to hold that into your head to realize that both of those are transitions, both of those are crossing over, and they're both an emotionally charged situation, because water usually is representation of emotions. So it's that crossing over, that emotional transition. And here's what came through with that. So on one hand, you have I'm afraid of dying. So it's like, well, I better live. and live well. That's fine. That's wonderful. That's a wonderful positive thought to have to help that. But see if this doesn't totally dispel that energy of the fear. Awaken into the wings of love. They carry you from this moment into the next. From this life, the wings of love carry you into the arms of love. How sweet is that? How beautiful is that? When we can hold that thought or hold that feeling, fear dissipates. Fear doesn't have a foothold. Now the last one that I'll cover at this point in time was the first one that came to me. And it was also the last one that arrived via Facebook. One was letting go of control, and the other was the world's gone crazy. What if the world goes crazy? And so I held that. That's about control, both sides of control. I've got to control the world, and what if the world gets out of control? So as I was holding that in my heart space, what came up for that was the unraveling or the disconnecting. And the common thought, or the positive thought that we hang on to control that fear, is let it go. Don't worry about it. Think about something positive. Change your mind, okay? And here's what came through when I held this in my heart space. Speak to the plants. They hear you. Street lights submit to your requests. Peace be still, and storms obey. Say to the mountains, move, and it will. Call upon your faith to steady the world within and around you. Read that again. Call upon your faith to steady the world within and around you. Allow divine intervention room to assist. Just because the outcome is out of sight doesn't mean the source has lost sight of it all. Spoken in faith with gratitude, love's harmonic connects and weaves the beautiful tapestry of life. How sweet is that? There's a couple of Bible passages that came to me as a result of this. 1 John 4, 8 through 21. Read that whole section. It's awesome. And one thing that I picked up from that I want to share with you is perfect love casts out fear. So when we focus on the hope, we focus on the love. The fear has to dissipate. You can just feel it go, and it's gone. Second one is 1 Peter 5:7. Cast all your cares upon him, for he cares for you. We forget that. Spiritual V8 moment. We forget that all that is actually loves us and wants us to be happy and wants us to do well and wants to bless us. We forget. We forget. Romans 8:28. All things work together for good for those that love the Lord. When we're doing the right thing, good's going to come out of it. It may suck right now, but good will come of it. Just hold on to that. That's a positive thought. That's a hope we can hang our intent upon and follow that. Let it lead us. And the last one, 2 Corinthians 12:9. My grace is sufficient for you. When we think we can't do enough, my grace is sufficient for you. So I want to walk us through a very brief guided meditation. And whatever